An investigation into intertextuality in relation to restaging the real with reference to notions of memory. In its most basic form, intertextuality is defined as the practice of presenting two or more different textualities, offering a new meaning as they are understood in relation to each other. Textuality is a structuralist term originally used when studying the linguistic qualities and coherence in texts, often in literature. And I quote, "Concepts such as intertextuality effectively mediate between works and larger historical contexts. They share with linguistic approaches the goal of explaining textual form, but explicitly seek to relate form to its social context." End quote, Hanks, 1989. Julia Kristeva coined the term in 1966 during the late 60s transition from structuralism to post-structuralism. She defined the concept as, and I quote, "a mosaic of quotations. Any text is absorption and transformation of another." End quote, Kristeva cited in Martin, 2011. Kristeva means that all texts derive from those already in existence. Our everyday spoken word is influenced by our socio-political and cultural environment. It is contextually dependent. Consider UK slang words. Wagwan in Jamaican patois, meaning what's going on, has slipped into Black British textuality after the Windrush generation and is used commonly in London. The familiar "I sound like my mother" exclamation is another result of everyday intertextuality, exemplifying how our words interdepend on what we have heard before. Within the art world, therefore, intertextuality is prevalent. Found in music, theatre, literature, and more, it is a tool of referencing, whether that be other artworks, politics, popular culture, or people. And I quote, any work of art for Kristeva is an intertext which interacts with other texts, rewrites, transforms, or parodies them. End quote, Zengin, 2016. Employment of this device is useful to theatre and filmmaking through its activation of a heightened visual layer, conceptual meanings and other contexts, in addition to the spectator's pleasure when they make the connection. This is particularly common in post-dramatic dramaturgies, for instance, in soundscapes which mosaically combine different texts and sounds. There are a plethora of other ways that intertextuality manifests in theatre and filmmaking, including relational aesthetics, concepts, staging, and self-referentiality, among many more. Through these devices, the spectator is offered a number of intertextual references which activate associations in their mind and thus affect their manner of conceiving the work. Restaging the real in theatre and film involves literally staging and performing a historical event, often for the purposes of documentary, making a factual depiction of a moment in real life. Aleki Blythe's London Road is a musical play adapted for film by Rufus Norris, which documents the recovery of a local community in Ipswich after the bodies of 5 women were discovered in 2006. The script is written entirely from recorded interviews with the town residents and is performed verbatim, exactly how the words were originally spoken. As Tom Seymour reviews, and I quote, "The end product is a strange, unsettling, and often deeply moving work of verisimilitude that, in its journalistic foundations and dramatic execution, holds some dark truths about British life." End quote, Seymour, 2015. Drawing from this, verisimilitude refers to something which appears very close to reality. Verisimilitude derives from 2 words in classical Latin, veritas, truth, and similitudis, similar to. When restaging the real, a crucial consideration to the artist is the representation of truth they are making, especially if they were not present for the event. Interviews are a key feature of most documentaries, artistic or non-artistic, while verbatim speech, presenting a number of different perspectives, stories, and insights to the spectator. While verbatim speech is not synonymous with restaging the real, it is a useful tool to capture these memories with verisimilitude through its accurate documentation which gives voice to the people themselves. And I quote, "Verbatim theatre is a play constructed with words that were actually spoken by real people." End quote, Belfield, 2018. Intertextuality is an effective device to utilize when restaging multiple events. It generates a relationship between different stories, enabling the artist to present specific themes and make a comment on something for the spectator's reception. Catalan director Josep Galindo practices a system of analysis in his approach to text and research material. The first step, decode, involves making a list of all objects, characters, places, actions, music, sounds, metaphors, and colours, plus the free choice of any other conceptual category. After selecting which findings to explore further, Galindo's subsequent step, encode, involves reviewing the lines of analysis in relation to stage languages and dramaturgy, echoing Kristeva's mosaic. Practice of this system reveals patterns in the nature and the content of the text, enhancing the audience perspective and enforcing the artist's perspective and enforcing them to make new connections which inform scenographic and dramaturgical choices. Essentially, it highlights the text's intertextuality through its production of connotations and its contextual dependence. Developing on Belfield's earlier point concerning the realness of verbatim theatre, applying Galindo's practice to transcripted interviews is a valuable method of unlocking this realness which can manifest in the form of a welding through the activation of interrelated phenomena. As Helen Palmer and Vicky Hunter describe it, and I quote, "Welding is informed by our turning of attention to a certain experience, place or encounter, and our active engagement with the materiality and the context in which events and interactions occur. It is above all an embodied and enacted process, a way of being in the world, consisting of an individual's whole person act of attending to the world." End quote, Palmer and Hunter, 2018. In relation to scenography and generating realness, or the quality of the real, the creation of a welding serves to portray a nuanced depiction which hones in on each and every detail of the restaged memory. Memory is within all of us, stored in the body and mind. And I quote, "Memory names the mechanism by which our present is indentured to the past." End quote, Turdyman, 2010. When we look back to memories, we are likely to remember certain sensations, colours and feelings. Inferring from this, memory functions in a similar way to Kristeva's mosaic through its contextual interdependence on other pre-existing memories. Research shows that our memories are not completely factual, as Schachter explains, and I quote, "Our memories are not ironclad representations of reality, but subjective perceptions." End quote, Schachter, cited in TED Ed 2020. This means that memories are relative, unique, and not always reliable. Furthermore, memory is multi-temporal and fragmented. Michel Serres explains multi-temporality as an assemblage of pleats of time. In other words, our experience of the present is layered with multiple temporalities from the past, present, and future. We remember the past while existing in the present. It is normal for our memory timeline to not be exactly in line with the true sequence of events. We often question, for example, whether it was yesterday or today that something occurred. Even more, perhaps it was a dream. Gilles Deleuze's cinematic term recollection image refers to the restaging of memory, specifically in films when there is a flashback to an event in the past. Flashbacks are triggered by an actual image or sensation in the present moment. Thus, memory is informing the present. As says Serres, memory is multi-temporal. To consider notions of memory is vital to the artist when restaging the real. Reality is remembered via memories, and memories inform reality. Returning to Rufus Norris' London Road for a moment, it is essentially a restaging of a number of people's memories. Instead of collating the memories in order of linearity like in London Road, however, if the artist leans into the multi-temporality of memory when restaging the real, they engage a meta-narrative of history and memory, blurring the lines between reality and memory. One film theory which offers manners of replicating these notions of memory is Sergei Eisenstein's 5 methods of montage. For him, montage was, and I quote, "an idea that derives from the collision between two shots that are independent of one another." End quote, Eisenstein, 1998. The 5 methods include metric, rhythmic, tonal, overtonal, and intellectual montage. In summary, they are abstract ways of connecting a sequence of shots to affect the spectator and create atmosphere. Intellectual montage, for instance, involves arranging shots in relation to intellectual concepts. Eisenstein uses the example of an image of a heart, followed by that of a knife, which together connote anxiety. Here, the meaning is made in the mind of the spectator as they cross-reference between personal image associations, mirroring the way memory patterns function and demonstrating intertextuality. This research concludes that restaging the real is intrinsically linked to notions of memory. We navigate the world via our memories, recognizing actual and real images by referring to the virtual images in our head from the past. I see an actual wine glass and recognize it as such because I match it to previous times that I have seen a wine glass. Serre's notion of multi-temporality explains how memory is informed by the past, present, and future. And I quote, "It is the recollections of memory that link the instants to each other and interpolate the past in the present. It is therefore memory that makes the body something other than instantaneous and gives it a duration in time." End quote, Deleuze, 1991. Therefore, restaging different people's memories of separate events emphasizes the intertextuality of memory. In the same way that memory is multi-temporal and blends time, intertextuality functions via transformation of texts from all stretches of time. Restaging memory presents a mosaic of images, recollections, and intertexts within a realm of multi-temporal durations. Thank you.